Hello and welcome to the Willow Show, your home for a wealth in health and sexual vitality. I'm Willow Brown. I'm your sexpert for the hormonally challenged, and I'm really excited about sharing today's episode with you because it's really the lens through which I get to view the whole world and all the patients who come to me and all the clients who come to me with all the different emotional things that they come with and all the different physical things that they come with. And it's really through the lens of the Chinese 5 elements. So each one of these elements has an organ system that's paired with it. And each one of these organs has a certain archetype, a certain personality, something that it's responsible for. So I'm going to kind of guide you through that so that you just have this new way of seeing things in the world, right? And normally I like to guide this through this whole 5 element personality archetype lens when I'm teaching Qigong. So we'll see how it goes just sitting here and talking to you. But we're going to go ahead and start with the element of metal. Metal is responsible for the organs of the lung and the large intestine. And the lungs are the very first place that we bring life force energy into our body. Qi or life force energy, lungs bring it in. Lungs are what start it. And when we take our last breath, of course, lungs are the last place that we see that life force energy leave the body. So when we're talking about the lungs, we're talking about the inspiration as well as the expiration, right? So the exhale is really that sense of clearing, that sense of letting go, that sense of releasing. When we look at the element of metal, it's the season of fall, it's the color of white, and it's the time fall, of course, is the time of letting go. It's when the leaves fall back to the earth. So it's kind of this death phase that we go through, this releasing, this clearing out as we look at the phases of life, right? And so the colon is paired with the lung. And so, of course, the colon is responsible for clearing all the shit out, literally. And so as we exhale, we're clearing. As we have bowel movement, we're clearing. So lungs and metal are all about clearing and letting go. Metal is also responsible for the connection to spirit, connection to heavenly energy, connection to fatherly energy. So, if you know people who are very spiritual, very ceremonial, very ritualistic, then they might have a metal predominance to their personality type. They might also have issues with their father or really, really love their father, could have something going on with the father energy there as well if they're a metal type of person. From metal, we move into water. So water is responsible for the 2 organs of the kidneys and the bladder. Bladder, again, is clearing, letting go, releasing. And when I think about this water phase, it's the season of winter. The color is blue, like traditionally it's a very dark blue, almost like a black color. But I teach people to bring any shade of blue that really works for them. I'm a tropical blue kind of person, so I always bring that in. And when we look at the element of water, we're looking at emotional stuff, relationship to food, cravings, relationship to sexuality. Like where are you on the spectrum of, not having a very good relationship to having an amazing relationship with food, with sexuality, with intimacy, with emotionality. And so water holds all of that. When we look at the kidneys, we're looking at this is where this kind of really deep-seated lifelong fear lives. Fear, a lot of times it's fear of not being worthy, fear of not being enough, fear of being too much, often has to do with being too much or not enough. And then the bladder holds this more surface kind of fear, kind of almost like an anxiety, like, oh shit, here we go. I don't know if I'm gonna, be enough for that person, or I don't know if I'm gonna be too much for that experience or for that situation. So that's the element of water. Then we move from water into wood. Wood is such a beautiful, beautiful element, and one that is not traditionally recognized in Ayurvedic or in Native American. So when we look at wood energy in Chinese medicine, we're looking at the energy of a tree, right? A tree is rooted into the earth, and as deep as its roots go, that's as high as it can reach up toward the sun. So tree and wood like knows where it's going. You know, it has a plan, it has a vision. This wood element, the two organs that it's responsible for are the liver and the gallbladder. And the liver opens to the eyes, you know, opens to the third eye as well. So it's all about vision, all about what is your purpose for being here on the planet. What are your goals? What is it that you want to create with your life? What's your plan? What's your movement forward? So like a tree rooting into the earth and then reaching up toward the sun, that's the wood energy. And people who are wood types are usually a little bit more stiff in their structure, their physical structure. They might have tight joints or tendon stuff going on, but they generally are very focused people. And the gallbladder, where does the gallbladder come in when we talk about wood? We talk about wood, liver opens to the eyes, vision, and then gallbladder is responsible for making decisions, because the gallbladder channel runs along the outside seam of the body. So all along the side of the head, the ear, this is where people who get migraines, headaches, sciatica, this is all gallbladder channel stuff, jaw tension, all gallbladder. And so this side seam of the body can see the front of the body and it can see the back of the body. So it can see both sides of the same coin most easily because of its location. Therefore, it helps us make decisions because it can see both sides of what's going on. I love that. The gallbladder is so cool in that way. And then from wood, we move into the fire element. Fire, it has a lot going on, right? When we think about fire, fire has a lot going on. And fire is actually responsible for 4 different organs, whereas the rest are responsible for 2. Fire is responsible for 4. So first of all, there's the heart and the small intestine. That's one pair. And then we have the pericardium and something called the sanjiao, or the triple burner. So we'll talk about that in a second. Let's start with the heart and the small intestine. The heart, of course, is, we all know the heart is where love and emotion and all of that is stored, but it can also get kind of manic, you know, it can get a little bit overwhelmed with emotion. It could get almost like, you know, you get that manic kind of feeling if you've had too many cups of coffee or something. So we're looking for a balance of just joy and contentment and peace within the heart, rather than that excited, overly like startled, you know, that kind of people who startle really easily could have some kind of heart imbalance going on in their life. So the heart is responsible for that purity of joy and that deep sense of contentment, that kind of inner peace, like all is okay, all is well, and I can move forward from where I'm at, I accept where I'm at in my life, and I can move forward from that place much more easily than if I was not able to accept where I was at in my life. So I really like to think about that heart medicine as where are you at on the spectrum of acceptance for what is. When we look at fire out of balance, we see people wanting to make things other than the way that they are. So our culture is very, very fire out of balance, right? We need something else to make us happy. We need a different relationship. We need a better iPhone. We need to have a different president. We need to have all these things to make us happy. We need something other than what we have in order to feel joy. And so we have a very fire out of balance culture. I think you would agree. When we look at the pair of the heart, we're looking at the small intestine. So small intestine, what does that have to do with the heart? Interesting pair, right? The small intestine is inside of your body. It separates the pure from the impure. So it's responsible for taking the nutrients out of your food and drawing it into the bloodstream, and then sending the rest of the waste into the colon to clear out of your body. So the small intestine really helps you discern in your life. So we think about that physically, but then we think about it energetically, emotionally, and spiritually, like discernment of, is this nourishing for me, or is this toxic for me? Am I going to put that to the waste? So that's really the energy of the small intestine. And that's why it's such a good pair with the heart. Because if someone comes into your life and your radar goes up, that person's going to be toxic for me, then you know to discern them out of your life and just send them to the waste. If someone else comes into your life and you're like, oh yeah, that person's so nourishing for me, they really feed my soul in a way, then you can open your heart up to them and really let them into your heart. Which leads me to the pericardium and the sanjiao. So the second pair for fire element is pericardium, which is the envelope around the heart. We call this organ system like the gatekeepers to the heart. So it's this envelope around the heart, and it's the gatekeepers. When you discern that that person is nourishing for your heart, then pericardium, the gatekeepers, open that up and let that person into your heart. The sanjiao is a little bit different, triple burner. San means three, jiao means burner. So you could think about the three burners. One is at the head, one is at the chest area, and then one is down at the belly area. So it's kind of like three big circles, like a snowman, right? And so you could think about these three burners in the body as a way for your body to regulate your temperature and regulate your water metabolism in your body. So the very most common example of this is when you get too hot, you start to sweat. So that's the sanjiao system. And then energetically and spiritually, it really is also a sort of an outer layer of the body, a protective mechanism. So if something's not going to nourish you, it keeps it away. And if something is going to nourish you, it lets it in. So that's the fire element. Lots going on in the fire element. Then from fire, we move into the final element, which is the element of earth. So as we move into this final element of earth, we're looking at two organs, which is the spleen and the stomach. Earth is very much the center of all of these different elements, right? It sits right at the center of all these different elements. And it's all about grounding. It has a lot to do with digestion, spleen and stomach, has a lot to do with, how are you able to digest your food, but then also how are you able to digest everything that's going on in your life? Do you have too much on your proverbial plate of life, or do you have not enough going on in your life? So where are you at on that spectrum? And when we look at the spleen energy, the spleen loves to really help digestion, really send out the digestive enzymes that you need. It's really loves dryness. So dampness and the spleen don't go together so well. And we really love to eat dampening foods. Sugar is a dampening food, alcohol, dairy, bread, carbohydrates, all of those things are very dampening to the system. And the spleen doesn't operate very well if you have a lot of dampness in your body. A lot of phlegm is another way to think about dampness. So nourishing the spleen by giving it fermented foods and things like that is very, very helpful for the spleen. And the spleen is also responsible for holding things in place, holding blood in vessels, holding wombs or uteruses in place, different muscular systems, holding muscles in place. So you could think about that too in your life, like how are you doing at holding things in place in your life? Does it feel like energy is leaking out in certain areas in your life? Maybe with finances, or maybe with your intimate relationships, maybe with your kids, you know? And so looking at like, how are you doing at holding things in place? And that's the spleen energy. And then when we look at the stomach is all about the rotting and ripening process inside of your digestive system. So the stomach is really that which is assimilating, you know, assimilating the foods, bringing it in, rotting, ripening, processing it. So how is it for you? How much are you able to assimilate in your life? Do you have enough time and space in your life to digest everything that's going on? So that's the earth element, and such a beautiful wheel of elements that we get to look through when we use this Chinese medicine perspective on life. And we can see how people carry these different elements in their bodies, how they carry them in their personalities and in their lives, and how it all ties together. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Namaste.